Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a double exposure. So it's going to look something like this, where you have the image and then you can see through to a totally different image. So on Classroom, I have these 4 photos you can choose from. You need one person and then one landscape. So choose which one. I'm going to go ahead and save this guy, and I'm going to save this landscape. You can choose your own, but these are the easiest for the tutorial. So save those and then go ahead and go to Photopea. We're going to do File New. We're going to do, go ahead and name it Double Exposure. And we will do, I'm going to do 10 by 8. So instead of 8 by 10, we're going to make this longer, and you'll see why. So go 10 by 8 inches, 200 dpi. So then if we zoom out, our canvas is landscape rather than portrait. Okay, so I am going to now, after I've saved my pictures, I have them actually in my downloads bar, or you can do File Open in Place. Go ahead and open both of them. So you can either click and drag or File Open in Place for both of them. So I've got both of them here, and then I'm going to, in the layers bar, just do it first thing, rasterize. So right click and rasterize both layers so that we can work with them. Okay, so then I'm gonna drag my landscape to be behind my portrait. Then I'm going to go ahead and make these, hold down Shift, grab from the corners, and make these fill up the space so that they're pretty large and we can see very clearly. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to enlarge this. Always hold down Shift if you do not want to warp your picture. Okay, so I can edit that more in just a second. So again, make sure your portrait is on top of your landscape in the layers and on here. All right, so then we are going to decide what of the landscape we want showing through because we're going to be cutting out the background and such. So we're going to lower the opacity on our portrait here so that we can see through to the landscape. So you can adjust if you want him to be, you know, you want more of this scene in here. Go ahead and move him, and then to make sure, see how the picture cuts off at the top of his head. If that's happening, then you need to make your landscape a little bit bigger. So filling more of that space. So just make sure it's just picture inside and it's not the end of the picture, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have it how I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and select him, and then I'm going to turn the opacity back up to 100%. Okay, so we have him selected. We're going to switch to the selection tool. So down here, or a magic wand, either one works. I'm just going to do the selection tool. I'm going to do this kind of quick, but you can do yours. Take your time with it. So I'm going to click. This photo is pretty good because it's such a clear distinction between him and the background. So I selected him. I can see this collar didn't select, so I'm just going to fix that. Oops. Okay, mine's not going to be perfect. I'm just going to go quick. All right, so this is a very important step. We are cutting out the background of him because we don't want the background portion. So you would think you would just do your Command X, but we cannot do that. So what we're going to do, the important step, you are going to go to the top. So go to Select, and then we're going to inverse this selection. So what that means is right now he is selected, but we're going to invert it so that everything but him is selected. So again, at the top, go Select, Inverse, and then you should still have a dotted line around him, but also have a dotted line around the edge of the canvas. That's how you know you're ready to do it. Then the command on your keyboard, depending on what keyboard you have. If you have a Mac keyboard, it is Command X. And if you have a PC keyboard, then it is Window X or Control X. Okay. Don't deselect, so we still need to have the dotted lines there, but we cut out the background, as you can see. So what we're going to do next, go ahead and turn this layer off. We can still see his outline, which is good. And then switch to the landscape layer. So now we're on this layer. We've turned this off. We're on here. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to do Command X and cut out the excess of that picture. Okay, so now you can deselect. So Command D or Control D or Window D. And we are not currently on a selection. Go ahead and turn your guy back on. And then we are going to lower the opacity. So you decide how much you want to show through. All right, so maybe about there. Actually, I'll go a little bit. Okay. All right, so then to move this, we're not going to just leave this here because this doesn't look finished. We are going to combine these two layers. So if you click the very top layer on your keyboard, hold down Shift and select the second layer. Let go of Shift, right click on your mouse, and let's merge these layers together just to make it easier. So then we're going to switch to the Move tool, and then I'm going to center this, and as you can see, this is hanging off the edge, so we're going to crop that down in just a second. So I'm going to hold down Shift, grab from the corner, and I'm going to have him fill the entire canvas just to make it easier. So hold down Shift, and then make sure like the bottom of him lines up with the bottom of the canvas just for craftsmanship's sake. All right, we still have pixels out here, so we're going to go to the crop tool. This is our last step. Crop tool, make sure delete crop pixels is selected. Click the check mark, you are good to go. If you want to, you can change the background color or do a gradient, whatever you want, make it fancy, whatever you want. And then go ahead and file, export as JPEG or PNG, and then you can turn that into Google Classroom.